All right, welcome into another edition of the Musketeer Report podcast, live from Dana Gardens. It is June 7th, 2025. Go ahead, you can make some noise. We're live, yeah. We only do one of these shows in front of a live audience every year, so make some noise. Let the people hear it. We're here with Coach Richard Pitino, the new head coach of your Xavier Musketeers. And Coach, I imagine it has been quite the whirlwind over the last however many weeks since the last time I saw you and we talked on the day that you were introduced. Has there been at all a settling in process for you and your family yet, or is it still a complete whirlwind?
Yeah, we're right in the middle of it all. We do get our house next week, which is great, and that'll be a good start to this whole process. But, you know, I think the first thing that you do whenever you take a job is certainly hire a staff, put together a team, and then you want to meet as many of your supporters as you possibly can. Not to say that the family part is last, but it really, you know, my kids were finishing up school, putting a house on the market, doing all those things. But it's honestly been great because I've been able to get out, meet so many great supporters. And, you know, I mean, you understand the job when you take it, but you really don't know until you really get in the trenches with everybody to really, truly understand it. So it's been great. It's almost been about 2 months and just started practice. We've had 3 practices. Now it is summer practice, which is totally different than the real practices. But overall, it's been good, and it's certainly starting to feel like home, which is nice.
Now, we're going to get into more about the practice and the team here in a minute, but I've heard you a few times say that Cincinnati surprised you a little bit for being a very foodie city. I imagine you haven't had a lot of time to do much other than maybe meet people, eat out a little bit. What stood out to you so far from a food standpoint? Any good restaurants?
Yeah, so much eating. It's disgusting how much eating, you know, because I have a rental house and I don't want to touch the people's, you know, plates and stuff like that. So I'm eating out every night. But yeah, I would say, you know, I knew Cincinnati from being in Louisville, being in Lexington, playing here, whether it was at Xavier or at Cincinnati. So I saw it, but I'm not sure I really understood just how much there was to do. And I think one of the coolest things that I've seen is the amount of like squares in every town that they all have a little bit of a different charm and feel to it. But yeah, I've done them all. Did Ruby's last night with my wife and son. I've experienced it all, and it is underrated, a very, very good food city for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And as you've mentioned too, we're very proud of that. So we like to ask about it and hear what your favorite is. So thank you for sharing that. Last time we talked, you were pretty much settled in the sense that you were bringing a lot of your staff over. You had Dante Jackson staying on. Since then, there was a change there. You have added Kareem Richardson to your staff, had a change at the assistant coach spot. Now, a lot of these people here are going to hear that name Kareem Richardson, and they're familiar with Kareem. He was here at one point on Chris Mack's staff. Take us through what went into that decision and how Kareem Richardson joined your staff.
Well, I would tell you the first thing when you know, 4 great years at New Mexico and really built it from the ground up. Obviously we're starting over here because we have one player who, Rody, was the only one left over really, plus some, plus some walk-ons, some phenomenal managers and grad assistants and all that. But, you know, we built a really good program at New Mexico. And I didn't need to leave. I wasn't necessarily wanting to leave, but I always thought if a really good Big East job would open up, I would jump at that opportunity. And I felt like my staff had so much to do with putting me in position to be there. So I wanted to bring them all. And, you know, every coach is different, but I remember when I took the Xavier job, I told them right away, I said, listen, I'm taking the Xavier job. Every single one of you will have a job on my staff. And that was important to me. So most of them came with me. Isaac Chu is here. You guys will meet him. He's been just as vital to my success at New Mexico as all the players. And he's huge to, you know, recruiting, player development, relationships, and so on, and coaching. But it was important that they all knew they were going to be taken care of because they had a lot to do with getting me this amazing opportunity. But Dave Pilipovich, who is kind of, you know, a confidant to me, wanted to stay out west. He has family out there, grandkids out there. So he was great. Aaron Katsuma came with us, was here for about a month. He was my manager at Minnesota. And I always felt like maybe if a spot opened there, maybe Nico, the new coach, would hire or call Aaron. And so Aaron, it was a tough decision for him, but I know he's excited about that. So, I wanted to know what I had here first to see what I needed to add. I didn't know Dante very well, have been very, very impressed with him. So that last spot, not that it was easier, but I saw a little bit clearer what I needed to look for there. And a guy like Kareem, I've known. He worked for my dad. I knew he worked here. He knows the area very well. So he was one of my first calls and fortunate that he was available. So really, really excited about it. Times have changed. You used to have 3 recruiting assistants. Now you have 5. Recruiting obviously has substantially changed. It's not quite the same anymore. But we feel like we've got a really, really well-rounded staff who, at the end of the day, it's my job. I tell people this all the time. It's my job to set the mission of where we're trying to go. And it's very, very important, whoever I hire, to get them to understand how to get there and let them work. And Kareem will be a guy who will really help us do that.
One more note on that. The thing that jumps out to me is I think, a guy like Dante Jackson is becoming a veteran as an assistant coach. He's been around for a while. He certainly knows Xavier very well. He's the young guy now on your staff. I mean, your assistants, 20-plus year type guys, are getting right to that 20-year mark. They've ran their own programs. What is it like to have that much experience in your coaching office? Yeah,
I would say I was a head coach, I think, at 29 years old. So this will be my 14th year of being a head coach. And I remember when I first started, I would say, experience doesn't matter. It matters. That's something only young people say. And so, I want staff members that make me better and challenge me. And I just think the older, more experienced you are, the more confident you are in your abilities. I will constantly ask Dante, hey, tell me how Sean Miller, Chris Mack did this, or, Isaac Chu, tell me how Buzz Williams did this. And it's not necessarily that I'm going to do it their way, but it's always good to kind of see a different side of it. And to just have guys that'll tell me I'm wrong. I don't want people to just tell me I'm right all the time. The goal is to win the Big East. That is the goal. And whatever we got to do together to do that, I'm all for. So it's important for me. I want to hire assistant coaches who want to be head coaches. And I guess Kareem is really the only one. Tarvis was at a lower level, but that's what I'm looking for. And I want them to be, just like I want my players to go to the NBA, I want assistants who want to be head coaches from here. I don't want them to think they need to go somewhere else to do that. And there's no reason why they can't here.
I've talked about the transfer portal so much over the last few weeks. I'm sure it's been at the forefront of everything you guys have been doing. It's changed the sport so much, and when you have an entirely new roster that you have to put in place, it really kind of encompasses everyone's time and thoughts and conversations. Tell me about Saturday, April 11th. That was the day that Trey Carroll, Gabriel Pazato, and Malik Moore all committed. That feels like a pretty important day in your offseason. Can you take us back to that one and kind of how that played out?
Well, the funny story is almost always these kids commit before they release it. And it's one of the most annoying new trends. I think Yoan did it. It was really annoying. I'm like, hey, Yoan, when are you going to announce it? I got to get the graphic right and all this nonsense. So we had known. It wasn't like we got 3 phone calls in that day. I do always say 98% of the time in recruiting, you don't get surprised. You kind of know. And all of them, whether it was Trey, Gabriel, it's different now because they have agents, they have representation, all this. So it's a little bit different than the normal 48 hours, get the family on, show them camp. You still do that. It's a little bit more condensed than it used to be. But, our mindset was this. We wanted to take guys and really build. Now, you don't have 4 years to build anymore. I understand that. But we wanted to get a good core together that we felt like, okay, let's see what we can retain after this year and then really, really build around it, because retention is very, very important. My 4 key players on last year's championship team were guys who had been in the program. So I don't want 13, 14 new transfers every single year. That's not what I'm looking to do. Now, will they stay for 4 years? I don't know. Does anyone know, can anyone take a guess in college basketball this year what the percentage that entered the transfer portal was? Can anybody take a guess? Go ahead. 68%. 68%, little high. Anyone else? 48%. So really one of two players in college basketball entered the portal. So I think in the old days, when somebody transferred, everybody was like, oh, what's wrong with the coaching staff? What's going, is it a culture thing? It's just part of the deal. Now, I'm sure we'll talk about it. The House settlement passing last night may change some things or whatever, but I don't have a problem with NIL as much as a lot of people do. I think the transfer portal rule is what really shifted this whole thing.
Yeah.
Because nothing is stopping them from just putting their name in and leaving. And sometimes it's right. They've got so much leverage right now that they're taking advantage of it. But, I believe build for what we have right now. Build from the ground up. See what we have. See what we like. Maybe we got to pivot on a certain situation. But getting older is key. Having guys in the program that know the biggies, know what I do, know the terminology, know what we're trying to do is very important.
Are recruiting battles more intense or less intense now with the money being such a big factor?
Probably less intense. Now, you will have 11th hour people going up 100,000, 200,000. It's crazy what's going on right now. And I can't fault guys for doing that. We all have a budget. It's a payroll or whatever you want to have. And I'd love to go over it, but I'll probably be fired before coaching a game. So it's probably less intense because it's so much more of a business. And the recruiting processes are not as long as they once were. So you're not getting attached as much. I don't know if I love that, but it is what it is. But it's definitely a little bit more different than it used to be.
What was more chaotic to deal with as you're in the transfer portal? Was it the sheer number of players that you guys had to add to your roster, or was it the inflated market due to the House settlement? I think a lot of these people have been following along. They kind of know that it's been a different situation this year than it has been maybe the last few years because of that House settlement coming down.
This year, to really dumb it down, not to imply that anybody's dumb, but I'm a little dumb, so I'm gonna basically, everybody decided we are going to unload all of our funds before the House settlement passes in July 1. And then there'll be that cap. Some went way over, some kept it right in the middle, and some went below it. But the numbers were so inflated and almost irrational. But again, more power to the players. That they've got to take advantage of this. They're not going to play forever or ever have these opportunities. But yes, that was the craziest part. And I think when I came here and I met with Greg at the end of March, the number that we had, nobody would have ever thought it would have gone up as much as it did. But I tell people all the time, it's the cost of doing business, whether you like it or not. And if we all want to win, we want to be first in everything, and that's a component of it.
The House settlement did finally pass last night. There was this period where everyone said, we're operating as though it's going to get passed. It's definitely going to get passed. And then we just stopped and waited for like over a month, not knowing when it was going to come down. It finally did get passed last night. How much changes now for you guys? Much?
Yeah, I think now until it all gets torn apart because there's lawsuits again, right? But it's so year to year. And that is what it is. We did our very, very best with what we had to put together a roster, right? And then we will pivot, understanding now what the rules are. One of the reasons why I felt like a Big East job should be one of the best jobs in the country is everybody's going to have a $20.5 million cap. And football is always going to be the priority with schools that have football. And they're going to get the most money because they bring in the most revenue, they have the most people, et cetera. Well, my thought process was, I know we're not going to be at 20.5 to pay a basketball team. We should. That would be great to me. But, there are some teams out there. But I understand rationally the way this is. But I just felt like we will never hit a ceiling. We shouldn't hit a ceiling. We should increase every single year. And obviously that's my job and, development and so on to go out there and do that. But I just felt like the House settlement hopefully will provide some guardrails. I do think it'll probably change again, but I think they feel good about that. But I feel great at what we did this year. Why not go up and do more while some of these schools with football are not going to be able to do that?
Your style of recruiting, one advantage I had this year is once you were hired, I had friends that coach in the conference you were just in. So I was able to call around and ask, like, what are these guys like? What do they do well? And something that kept coming up is, man, they evaluate for fit really well. They know what they want. They're all about getting the right fit. What does that mean to you in this era? How are you good at that? Why are people saying that about you?
Well, we were good. Hopefully we continue to be good. But I think that's this thing that you said is the most important thing is, you have to be, as a head coach, and I don't know if I knew this right away, you have to be very, very clear on what you want. And you can't take somebody that doesn't fit. We like size and skill. We like to play fast. We like interchangeable parts. We were able to really, really identify some players, whether it was Donovan Dent was probably the number one player in the portal out of our program. JT Toppin, Texas Tech, number one player coming out of the portal. And my biggest thing is just, it's going to be somewhat of fit based at all times. We did do a really, really good job of that. It's important to tell my staff, this is what I'm looking for. Let them go work, let them identify. And then if I have to say yes or no, great. But we hit on some good guys. I think it's important to be at a place that fits what you're trying to do. New Mexico was that. I think Xavier is that. I think the conference, the ties that we have will certainly all fit together. But you have to have a roster in place to really know what you want moving forward and who's going to be here and then what you're looking for. And I keep it pretty simple. I really do with my guys about this is what we need. And I don't struggle making decisions. I think some coaches agonize, it take a little bit too much time, and then maybe that opportunity passed, where if I like something, let's go get it done.
Two things that I want to ask you about specifically with regards to that and your style. It seems like there's a very specific style of big man that you're going after. What's most important to you at that position? Well,
the 4 and 5 are a little bit different. I do like some rim protection at the 5 spot. We want to get steals. I think we average 9 a game. We want to block shots. We want to, as simple as it sounds, speed up the ball and funnel it towards the rim and then block it, right? And we've always had really, really good shot blockers. I think Nelly, our center last year, led the conference in that. We were top 20 in defense. I know everybody likes to talk about offense. 4 spot, a little bit more skilled. In an ideal world, you'd love the 4 and the 5 to shoot the 3. But if the 5 can't, I think that's tolerable. But the 4 needs to be able to shoot the 3. Yoan thinks he could shoot the 3, which is always a nice thing. So even if you can, at least you believe that you can. But they're a little bit interchangeable. Offensively, if the 5 can take it out quickly, fine. The 4 will rim run and will kind of flow through there. But as skilled as they can be, but then toughness. I mean, the benefit of knowing this league is like that Zuby Ejiofor, like we got to go get that rebound. And you got to put guys in position to do that and recruit those guys.
Also, 5 incoming sophomores. I mean, they just finished up their freshman season and now have transferred to Xavier. Is there good value in those types of guys? There's something specific about that freshman to sophomore year jump that you like, or is it just about player retention like you were talking about?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. Guys like All and Gabriel, I think there's some untapped potential there. Anthony Robinson's a guy who, he redshirted and then played. I think for us, it was, again, who could we get, who fits our system, and then we're going to build around that. But I do, I don't know. We were just watching some high school kids and trying to figure out, how much do you want to invest in those guys? Are they ready to help you win right away? Because again, I know this is the honeymoon period, but people want to win right away. And you don't have as much time as you used to have in this profession. But we identify with some younger guys. We got some older guys as well, and just trying to blend and put together a team. I think it was Bill Belichick said it the best, where we're not acquiring talent. We're trying to put together a team. And, now that we see all the pieces fit, and we'll get better as years go on.
You did start workouts this week. I think you guys have gone at it, 2 or 3 times now as a team. Were there any initial thoughts that jumped out to you about this roster as a whole?
Yeah, we've had 3 practices. And I would be surprised if we don't go undefeated.
That's exactly what I was looking for.
Exact words, yeah. No, I mean, I think what you're trying to do at first is establish, you don't want to use the word culture too much, but just establish how we do things. And we had a team meeting when everybody got here of the expectations. I don't have a million rules, but I have a lot of standards of what we're trying to do, and being on time and representing this program and this community and you guys the right way is very, very important. And then the workout piece, you as a coach, when you take over a new job, you want to do so much, but you have to remember it's only June. Attitude's been great. Effort's been really good. A lot of the summer has to do with the weight room, to be honest with you. So they're really going hard there, and then establishing a pace of play. That's going to be different for a lot of them. Rody is certainly used to it from last year. The ironic thing, and we talked about it a little bit when I got hired, but I became very friendly with Sean Miller. Don't boo him or anything. I actually really like him a lot. But his offense that he ran, he took it from Gonzaga. And when I was out west, I really took to it as well. And that was maybe a shift of Minnesota to New Mexico, was the way that we played offensively. And we're trying to play fast. We're not trying to walk the ball up the court and look over at me and run a play or anything like that. Like, trying to give them some concepts so that they can do it without me. So we're trying to put that stuff in. We played a little bit live yesterday. The first 2 practices we did not. And it was, to be expected, for first time going live. But it was good. And, I'm more of a whole than part teacher. I want to kind of see it. And but it's been really good so far. Week 1's been really good.
Roddy Anderson is here in attendance. I know the fans are really grateful to him for sticking around. What was the process like when you started talking to Roddy to decide that it made sense for him to stick around, both for you and him?
Yeah, I think the benefit, honestly, was Roddy was at Boise when I was at New Mexico. And so I knew his game, and he knew what I had done with guards like a Jalen House, Jamal Mashburn Jr., and a Donovan Dent. So there was some familiarity there. Roddy is all substance as a person first, but also as a player. And, he deserves the recognition because he's got a chip on his shoulder. And when I first met him, when I first got the job, we had team meetings. It was one player, and it was Roddy. So it was pretty easy. But just a great person. To have a guy like that in year 1 was huge. But I think it was mutually beneficial, and he knew what we did at New Mexico. I had so much respect for where he started and what he did at Boise. And it's just a really good marriage and a really good understanding of what we're both looking for.
When you look at the backcourt situation, the guards you've brought in here, do you feel like it's pretty clear-cut, the roles, or is it like we've got different guys that can do different things and it's going to be an all-out battle when we get into practice?
I hope it's an all-out battle. The one thing I could tell you is nobody's been promised anything. And I will tell you this, summer practices, they're great, but they're really not reality. It gets real the first game when you divvy out the minutes to really see. Now, you try as a coach to create as much pressure, tense situations as you possibly can, but it gets real once school starts. Like they're in online classes right now, right? They're not taking a full class load. Once the fall hits, they've got that. They've got 5 to 6 practices a week, all those things, where we've only gone 2 or 3 times a week so far. So everything feels good right now. It'll all change when adversity hits, and we'll really know who's equipped to handle all of these things. And we're there to help them. You know what I mean? I always tell the team when I meet, hey, we're all on the same team. We benefit with your success. So yeah, I change up teams every practice. There's not a first team, second team right now. We'll see where it all ends up come mid to late October.
Going down the list on some of these other guys, tell me a little bit about All Right. He came over from Valparaiso, another one of those guys making that freshman to sophomore year jump. He's listed as a 6'3" guard, and when you watch his play from last year, he had some really fun games that he put on tape. Yeah,
I would say that's what he is. He's a fun player to watch. Extremely confident. Yeah. That confidence comes from a belief in himself, and the belief in himself comes from he lives in the gym. He is an early morning. Like I get in about 7:30, 7:45, and you'll hear a ball bounce, and it's Rody. Yoan sleeps in. It's Rody or it's all. But all of them honestly are workers. But he lives in the gym. He's the guy when you huddle up the team. He wants to talk right away. Not in a bad way, in a good way. He commands the respect of everybody. The coaches that coached him loved him. So it's what you need. You want to go win at UConn, Villanova, Providence. You've got to have some confident players, and All is certainly that.
And another guard that you guys actually just brought in, the most recent addition to your roster, Mir Penome, coming out of the Summit League. When I look at him, he's listed at 6'2", 200 pounds. Just athleticism jumps off the page.
Yeah, probably the best athlete pound for pound on the team, especially from a jumping standpoint. He'll do some things you're like, oh my goodness. Really a good late addition for us. Long arms, may not be 6'6", but has a huge wingspan, can get in the paint, can play the 1, 2, or the 3, really doesn't matter, but high level of athleticism. And another guy that, great, as you meet all these guys, they're really fun to be around, and they're really good people, and Mir is certainly that.
And we've moved to the guys who are maybe more shooting guard, wing type players. Malik Moore, 6'4", out of Montana. Looks like an efficient scorer. What can you tell us about him?
Yeah, we played him 2 years ago. He was at Pepperdine. Really liked him. And again, in this transfer portal world, you always got to be nice to the kids when they don't choose you, because you may recruit them again. And he was a guy we had called on when he was leaving Pepperdine. Didn't work out at New Mexico, but size and skill. When he shoots it, you think it's going to go in. He doesn't really have a weakness on the offensive side of it. I don't really know defensively yet because we haven't done a whole lot. But older guy, has experienced it all, and a really talented player.
Then from Evansville, Gabriel Pazato is 6'7", over 200 pounds. And he's a guy that when you watch him, just from the untrained eye standpoint, he's the guy that kind of jumps out. It's like, whoa, he's got some real tools at his size and his skill where he could be something special. It looks like there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, the old days before everybody's transferring every year, you'd be like, wow, that kid by his senior year is going to be really good. Yeah. It's just the different lens that you look at it as a coach. But it was him and All in their league to be freshman of the year. They were 1 and 2. Talented, tall, long arms, can shoot it. I told him through the recruiting process, if you're going to be from Rome, Italy, you got to play for an Italian coach. And he, but loves the game as well, and high ceiling.
What is the recruitment like for some of those international guys who have already been over here playing the college game? Is it pretty standard, just like any other college player?
Yeah, it's definitely different when they haven't been here.
Yeah.
But he's been Americanized pretty good. But when dealing with, I was FaceTiming or Zooming with his family, and you had the dad who's outside of Rome, speaks no English, and he's like, you're hearing all these things in Pitino, and I'm like, what is he saying? Is he talking about me?
Yeah, I'm trying to find a new pope.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all going on.
And Mom, I think, was in Mexico when we spoke, but it was pretty standard, and he was able to drive down here, which was nice. But dealing with the agent, the family, that there was definitely that European feel for sure.
Another wing that was more of a late ad for you guys is Isaiah Walker, 6'5". Now, he's a fun story. He's a local guy, played his high school ball here, and also his dad, Tyrese, is a legacy player, played at Xavier.
Yeah, and that used to mean a little bit more back in the day than it does now. I still think it means something, right? To have a guy, he grew up, obviously his dad played here and he's from here. That's really cool to see. But, as we broke down kind of analytically how we're trying to put together this roster, the one thing about Isaiah was he played for a winning team and he was a part of that success. And we really, really liked that.
Then you move into some of these forwards, and Trey Carroll is a guy from Florida Atlantic that you added that when you watch him play, it just feels like he's always making winning plays. And I don't know exactly how you describe him as a player. I'm interested to get your take on it because he's kind of a versatile piece.
Yeah, a skilled 4, could play the 5 in a pinch, but that's not really what we're looking to do. But, it was similar to Yoan, just size and skill. Can shoot the 3. If you close out him, he can drive to the basket. If you switch his ball screen, he can roll you into the post. Great attitude, great kind of zest for life every single day. So he's one of those guys that truly plays with joy, and that's what you want. And he's been a part of a winning program. FAU, what they did 2 years ago, obviously to go to the Final Four. They were a good team last year. He had a lot to do with that as well. So we felt like with his body of work, he would be a guy where I don't think statistically and role and all those things, he'll take a step back at all.
We talked about the front court a little bit already, and I was more referring to the centers when I said you really have a different style of center. I think for the fans in attendance, when you look at your roster this year, the thing that will jump out to them the most, that looks the most different, will be the center position. Because we'll start with Anthony Robinson, the transfer from Virginia, who's 6'10", 252 pounds. He's a physical specimen.
Unbelievable. Just size and physicality wise, I told our strength coach, you cannot take credit for him because he walked in looking like that. He was a guy in Virginia that, didn't play a whole lot, but when he played, you were like, whoa, there is some untapped potential there. Similar to what I said about Gabriel, like his best days of basketball are so far, in the future for him, and he's going to be a really good player. Long arms, physical, tough, can block a shot, can rim roll, can dunk. That's the thing that I think people had told me was Xavier's never really had that at the 5 spot for whatever the reason is. I don't know. But that's what we're looking for. And Anthony certainly is that. And there's a lot of untapped potential there.
And then another guy that you brought in, Pop Njai, 7 foot, 230 pounds is what he's listed at. Looks like he might be a little bit thinner than that 230. I don't know. I might have to see that scale.
I don't buy 230. He is 7 feet tall. We recruited him out of high school. He was a top 100 kid and ended up going to UNLV. Really liked him a lot. He had kind of come off the bench for them because they had an older big guy. But when he hit the portal, we just felt like another guy in time developed. He could shoot a 3. He's skilled around the basket. He can block a shot. He can go rebound. Both of those guys, it's going to be fun to watch them both grow.
Definitely. And then there's 2 other guys that I haven't mentioned yet that came over with you from New Mexico. 2 different players. Yoan is here in attendance today. And you mentioned he's at 6'10", 240 pounds, but kind of a skilled big guy, right?
Yeah, I don't want to, compliment him too much because he's right there. But, Yoan, we recruited him out of high school, and he's a really good player, but a great person. And for me to be able to bring 2 guys like Yoan and Phillip to start a program with, there's no better opportunity for me. And they're great ambassadors of this program. I think they believe in me like I believe in them. But he's going to make a jump. Similar to kind of what we added. Well, he played for me, but he had meaningful minutes in big games for us, made some big shots. I mean, I think the best thing he did last year was make 3s, but there's so much more to his game than that. Loves basketball, lives in the gym, and I really expect him to make a big jump this year.
And then the other guy that you mentioned briefly there, Phillip Borovich, listed at 6'9", 222 pounds, and a guy in my position, as you're going through these rosters, updates, and you're trying to keep track of it all through the transfer portal, you try to get a feel for what guys are going to bring. You try to make predictions and write it up. That's the guy that I would say I have the worst feel for. I can't tell you where he fits in, what he is. So tell us, what's his game like? What does he do well?
Yeah, think about it. I don't remember how many games we won, 27, I think, last year. But, I mean, he started almost every game for us. And we were a championship team in a good league. And he just finds a way defends very well, and a lot of that is he's so big at a guard spot. He's got good length. His shooting is consistent. I don't think he's a great shooter. He's not a bad shooter. He's getting better and better. He's versatile. He can pass the basketball. He can play in ball screens. Similar to what I talked about Coach Miller's offense. He played for Arizona, who runs a similar offense to us. So we just like the fit. And he's another guy, just awesome human being, and very, very lucky he joined me.
Do you view him as like a 2-3 in terms of position?
Yeah. He thinks he's a point guard, which he's not. But he's a 2-3. They're both the same in our system, but he's just got the size and skill that you're looking for.
And there's one more guy that we haven't mentioned yet. That is the lone freshman coming in this year, Kase Westfall, 7-footer, a developmental big man, right? You're going to need to put in some work and some time, certainly, but he got size.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, again, the old days, you'd be like, okay, that kid, junior, senior year, if he keeps working and getting better. But I think he understands that. We were very transparent about what we were looking for, and I think his family was as well. And so I really like his upside. He's all 7 feet tall. He'll get stronger. He works hard. He plays hard. So I think down the road, he's going to be a really good player for us.
So we mentioned you started this past week. You've put in 3 days of workouts so far. It's basically what? You have a 4 hours of work on court, 4 hours of work in the weight room per week for 8 weeks during the summer?
Yeah, we've gone 3 days a week, a little bit over an hour. I think I like that. But like I said before, for them, it's their bodies have really got to evolve and grow over the summer. And the workload that they do in the summer is probably heavier than they'll do during the year. During the year, it's more kind of maintaining it, where this is the time to put on 10 pounds, lose 10 pounds, put on, increase your body fat, whatever it may be that you're trying to do, or decrease, your muscle, obviously not body fat, but, so they're coming in pretty tired from getting worked hard in the weight room. But it's the introductory phase of this whole thing right now, and it's the appetizer. It's not the main course, but they're getting acclimated to where when we come back in the fall, we'll really ramp it up.
We'll wrap it up with this. You guys are into the 2026 recruiting now, preps recruiting, not just 2026, but that and beyond. It was all about the transfer portal prior to this. What is your view on freshman recruiting or preps recruiting now? Do you still see value in looking for those guys, spending a lot of time and resources on it, and then trying to develop them? Or is it like not anymore with the transfer portal?
Wow. Great question. How much time do you have there? I mean, I still value it very much so. You look at Donovan Dent was player of the year for us in New Mexico. He was a high school kid. JT Toppin, who was freshman of the year in our league, was a high school kid. So I absolutely do value it, but I think everybody's running a different race, so it depends on the player. I think it's so very important, obviously, to recruit Ohio. I know there's so many alum throughout the state, there's great high school coaching here. We're having a team camp right now. We were just there evaluating all day. So every position that we're doing is different. But yes, it's still a part of it. And, they're still key. You want to build a program. And if you can retain them and get them to understand what what you want from them, those high school kids can be very, very valuable.
Well, Coach, thank you for doing this. First of all, it was awesome to get a chance to catch up on the team, get a chance to talk to you. I know these fans probably enjoyed getting to hear your take on that. But also, in this new era, the fans are a big part of this, right? The fans are a big part of what you're trying to build. Is that kind of the idea here of getting out and seeing everybody, is making sure they know, they can be a part of this and they're essential to your success?
They're the reason I took the job, is honestly the Cintas Center. The players are going to change, but I know you guys remain the same. We will go to where we want to get to because of that building and this fan base. And players, although it's way more come and go, they want to be at a place that cares about basketball. And, they want to play in front of 10,000 fans. So it's very important for me, especially this summer, to get out and let you guys know, one, thank you. I look at you like stakeholders. This is like the Green Bay Packers. You're a part of this thing, and you're owners of this, and we appreciate it. It does not, it's not lost on me. We thank you very much for it, and we want to get to the next step in this program. There's been so many amazing coaches, but so much of the success of this program has been the special fan base, and so much as you guys. So thank you very much.
That's the new head coach of your Xavier Musketeers, Richard Pitino.
Thank you.